What is going on, my beautiful friends? Welcome to Module 3. Being selfish is the most selfless thing you can do. And that's my hook to get your attention. My name is Nathan Barna. I'm the founder of Life Magic, where we help men change the world by living their dream, doing what they love to do. So, stay with me here. We are going to break down values. We're going to go through the 1, 2, 3, 4 approach that I learned from Paul Chek. And we're going to finish up with the I, we, all concept for taking care of yourself so that you can take care of other people and that you can do your work and change the world and do what you're called to do. So, I remember when I first learned this, I was just starting out in my coaching. I just started Optimal Evolution, and was just giving myself to everybody. I was just whoring away all my energy because honestly, I was coming from a place of scarcity to where, I was trying to eat. I was trying to pay the bills. I was trying to start this business. And so I was just taking on anything and everything that I could and just giving and giving and giving and, showing up to take on new clients, and when I wasn't even taking care of myself. And it got to a point where I was giving so much that I started to break down. I was starting to gain some weight. I had this severe fungal infection that was eating up my whole body. It was pretty gross. It looked like, eczema and ringworm, and there's a whole bunch of shit going on. I'm still healing from that. It's come a long ways, but it's a continual healing journey, and we'll get into that kind of stuff later on. But I was going through that, and I just got to that place where it was like I was starting to resent people because I could feel myself breaking down, and I could feel that I wasn't getting the time that I needed for myself to take care of myself. And I also just didn't really know what that even looked like. I was just kind of getting into this journey and learning what it really meant to take care of yourself. And so it got to the point where I was at this breaking point where it was either I just stopped doing everything, and that was honestly was looking like a very attractive decision, just like fuck all of this. Let me just take care of myself now. Or I needed to create some sort of structure so that I can continue to do my work and know that I'm taking care of myself. And it was around this time that I was introduced to Paul Chek. And as I was going through his work, I decided to take his course and become a practitioner. And so I took his HLC1, Holistic Lifestyle Coach Level 1 course. And one of the very first concepts that they teach you is what he calls the 1, 2, 3, 4 approach. And really he has a number system that goes all the way up to 10, but the first 4 are kind of the foundational components. And so I'm going to break that down for you here. So 1 is one love. What do you love enough that you are willing to change for? 2 is the 2 forces. So these are the complementary opposites that really allow this whole experience to be possible. So you've got yin yang, you've got hot cold, you've got day night, you've got wet dry. You can go on and on and on. There's always these opposites and these interplay of the opposites, and really 2 is about seeing where you're out of balance or where you could better be in balance or where you might be doing well with. It's just all about balance because your body's in a constant state of functional homeostasis, which basically means that your body's always trying to find a relative balance point, but it's never truly in balance because paradoxically, if you were ever completely in balance, then everything would just stop. Because the way that all the processes work, it's this interplay of the pendulum swinging back and forth from hot, cold, day, night. It's the cycles. Just like, if we didn't have hot or day and night, because there was just a completely balanced system, there would just be nothing. And so we need the two, we need that polarity to have this experience. And so it's not necessarily about being completely in balance, it's being able to maintain a functional balance so you're not going too far to one side and neglecting the other side, or you're not going too far to the other side and neglecting the opposite side. You swing back and forth, just like you go to sleep at night, you rest, and then you do activity during the day. But if you do too much activity and not enough rest, then you start to burn out. You get too much rest and not enough activity, then you don't have enough stimulus to really keep your body going. Then you also start to wither away and you start to break down. So too much of anything, it's kind of like Zen and the middle path. It's not too much, not too little, just right, just to maintain the functional balance. Cool. So number 3 is 3 choices. So within any kind of decision that you are making, there's 3 choices that you can make, 3 paths that you can take. So you can either do the optimal choice, make the optimal decision, which is the choice that is the best for you and everybody on your dream team. And even if you think that you may not necessarily be a part of a team, you are always being supported in one way or another. Even if you think about like who made the clothes that you're wearing or who made the toilet paper that you wipe your ass with, there's always a chain to where we're all being supported by one another in one way or another. Who made the food that you are eating? Where did that food come from? Are you eating animals or even plants that are conscious? We're all supporting one another. So the optimal decision is the best decision that takes into account everybody that your decision is affecting and is also aligned with your dream, your one dream, your one love. And then 2, the second choice, is a suboptimal decision, which is usually the decision that provides instant gratification, but may not necessarily be aligned with your dream, or may not be the best decision for everybody on your dream team, everybody that you are connected to and being supported by. And so, you can think of many examples of a suboptimal decision where it's like, hey, it's late at night and I want to eat this ice cream, or, I'm stressed out, I'm not taking care of myself, and then I just decide to cut everybody off, or I lash out at somebody. And again, the suboptimal decision isn't necessarily a bad decision, because it can provide a learning opportunity, and therefore we can grow from a suboptimal decisions. And the last one is the decision to do nothing. And a lot of people think that we just don't make decisions because we're afraid of making a mistake, we're afraid of making the wrong decision, we're afraid of what other people are going to think about us with the decisions that we make, and so we do nothing. But doing nothing is still a decision. And now you can do nothing out of just complete apathy, where you're like, I don't really care, I don't want to make any decision, I'm just going to stay right here. And that would be, quote unquote, the worst decision, because the analogy that I like to use, if you're trying to get somewhere and you're just standing still and you keep standing still and you're deciding just to not move and you stay in the same place, no matter what happens, you're not getting any closer to where you want to go. At least if you make a suboptimal decision, if you take a step in the wrong direction, then you can figure that out, and then that gets you one step closer to the right direction, to your destination, because okay, that's not the way. At least I know that now, and I can make a better decision. But if you do nothing, then nothing happens. Now, there is a positive side to doing nothing, because you can choose to do nothing because you need to take more time to make an optimal decision, or you need to gather more resources or more information to make an optimal decision. And that would be the positive side of choosing to do nothing. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3. So 1 love, 2 forces, 3 choices, 4 is for doctors. So now in this system, there's 4 doctors to where if you listen to these 4 doctors, which essentially act as like the 4 pillars or like the 4 legs on a chair to support you and your dream, then your chances of having to actually go to a regular traditional doctor are way less likely outside of, you got in a car wreck and you need your leg sewn back onto you. So these 4 doctors are Dr. Happy, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Diet, Dr. Movement. Again, Dr. Happy, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Diet, Dr. Movement. So the names themselves kind of give away what they are. Dr. Happiness is related to what is happy making for you, what brings you a sense of happiness, what brings you a sense of fulfillment. And sometimes it's not even things that are productive. I mean, hell, a lot of times the things that make us feel the happiest and bring us the most joy and fulfillment in life are things where there's not necessarily an outcome associated. When's the last time you just danced for no reason, just because you wanted to dance? When's the last time you just sang a song or played an instrument, not because you were trying to get something out of it, but just for the joy of doing the thing? And as a little side note here, that's one of the tips that I found to lasting happiness in your life is to find things that you love so much that you just do them for the sake of doing them. And if you can also match those things with the things that are also what you love to do in terms of your work and your service to the world and your mission, then you've got a double whammy, and that really sets you up for getting results and success and fulfillment within your success. Because Maxwell Maltz says in his book Psycho-Cybernetics, success is getting what you want, happiness is wanting what you get. So if you can find something that you just can do for the sake of doing, you create for the sake of creating, that is also aligned with the things that are moving you forward in your career and your dream, then you've really got a good pathway there to creating your dream and having fun along the way and having fulfillment along the way and purpose along the way. So Dr. Happy, Dr. Quiet is all about rest and restoration, introspection, contemplation. So really just the time that you're taking to be still and to be with yourself. Whether that is, actually sleep, recovering through sleep, or, time that you take for meditation, time that you take for your spiritual practice, time that you take to just sit and just to be, the opposite of doing, being. And then you've got Dr. Diet, which obviously relates to your diet, the foods that you are consuming. But it's not just the foods either. It's also like information. Really anything that you are consuming can be part of Dr. Diet. So it has to do with your values around what you are choosing to consume, whether that's food or information or relationships, whatever that may be. Dr. Movement, lastly, is the doctor of your moving your body, and also movement of your energy, movement of your thoughts. So kind of each one of these doctors has a physical and a non-physical component to them. And so what are your values around your exercise and how you're moving your body? And also, and within each one of these 4 doctors, how is that related to your dream? Because your values around each one of those is going to be different depending on what your overarching dream is. That's why we start there. Obviously, if you're an athlete, your needs around each one of those doctors are going to be different than if you're if you're a husband, or if you're, just an active member of your community. You don't have a desire to be a professional, elite level athlete, or if you're an entrepreneur and or a business owner, businessman, businesswoman, then your needs are going to be different than if you are a professional tennis player. So It's all related to your dream. And so that's the introduction to the 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I want to go back, and with those 4 doctors, you're going to create a system of values within each one of those 4 doctors. Now, I kind of already led you through that process, but I want to kind of get a little bit more specific, because this is ultimately going to be your assignment for today. Part of your assignment for today is creating values within each one of those doctors. And those values ultimately turn into your non-negotiables. So starting with Dr. Happy again, what are the activities, and it could be big or small, like daily small things. What are the activities that make you feel good, that make you feel happy? Maybe that is, going for a walk at the end of the day with your dog and your partner. Maybe that is, even like watching a movie, or watching your favorite TV show, or reading your favorite book, or even like scrolling through Instagram. There's nothing wrong with any of these activities. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we get caught up in like everything has to be outcome oriented, and I have to be productive with every single second of my time. But sometimes the most productive thing that you can do is something that has zero outcome attached to it, like watching a movie, like just dancing, like going out in nature. So getting clear on what are those things that are happy making for you, and then scheduling them into your day and week. Make it a priority, because if you don't schedule it in, then more than likely it's not going to happen until you get to a point where you're like burning out and you're like, what the fuck? I haven't taken any time for myself. And you find yourself in the same situation I found myself in, and then you're forced to do something about it. But if you can have these daily, weekly, monthly rituals, then you're continuously feeding that part of yourself, and continuously providing that sense of happiness to yourself. Okay, so write a list down of what those things are, and then schedule them into your week. Make sure they happen. Make them non-negotiables. And my invitation, and this will go with any of the doctors, my invitation is to find I call it just the highest leverage activity. So what's the simplest thing that you can do that is also the most effective thing that you can do, that takes the least amount of time and energy, and start there. So maybe that is like just going for a walk for 10 minutes. Because if you start small, you can make that commitment, because the biggest thing is the consistency. It's not, if you do something big, but you only do it once a year, that's not going to be enough to really hold you over, and you're going to still find yourself in the same spot. So you're better off having something that takes 5-10 minutes and doing that daily, than planning out this extravagant thing that never really happens, because it's hard to fit in your schedule because you haven't really built that consistency up. All right, and again, that goes with all the doctors. So Dr. Quiet now. So what are your values around sleep? What time do you value going to bed? What time do you value waking up? I'll give you a little hint here. Our bodies are aligned with nature. And so there's a circadian rhythm that our hormones and a lot of our physiology is attached to. And so ideally, this is pretty much common sense if you just think about it. When the sun goes down, that's time for us to be winding down. And, studies show, and what I've learned is about 10:30 at the latest is when you want to be getting to bed, and then rising with the sun, or rising around 6:30. And most people, if you follow that schedule, that's usually the time that you feel the best. But I'll give you a little hint on this, because a lot of times, as entrepreneurs, we are working. And so it can be easy to get caught up in work, and then we end up working late. And then, either missing bedtime, or our sleep schedule gets weird. And a rule of thumb is, if you do need extra time, whether that's to work or to fit your workout in or whatever that is, you're better off waking up early than you are staying up late. Because if you stay up late, you're going against your natural rhythms. If you wake up early, at least you're going with your natural rhythms, because as the day is getting started, your cortisol levels are rising, your stress hormones are rising naturally with the beginning of the day. And so you're flowing with the grain rather than trying to flow against the grain. Okay? But either way, create non-negotiables of what time am I going to bed, what time am I waking up. And that should provide the foundation of your day around your sleep. And then you can structure in your activities around that. And then also, what time are you taking for your own spiritual practice and your own personal time? You know, I personally I do 20 minutes of Tai Chi the first thing every single morning. 20 minutes of some kind of meditation. But again, it doesn't have to be 20 minutes worth, even if you commit to 5 minutes. But the biggest thing, especially when it comes to spiritual practice, is you want to do it every single day. Again, it's non-negotiable. It's like, I don't care what else happens, this is getting done. And anybody can commit to 5 minutes, and anybody can commit to 20 minutes, but sometimes that can seem daunting at first. So start where you can, and then build the consistency, and then you can always add the time over time. But I have found like 20 minutes is a sweet spot, at least for me and people that I've worked with. All right, so values around sleep, values around your meditation, and also just personal, just beingness time, like, the time that you take to just wind down at the end of the day. So then, Dr. Diet, what are your values? What are your non-negotiables around what you are consuming? So obviously food, the quality of the food that you're eating. If you've been through module 2, then we got deep into food quality and quantity and making sure that is aligned. So the quality and the quantity of the food that you're eating, as well as anything else that you are consuming. So, you can look at, okay, I value to eat X% all organic food, or I value, even with water, I value drinking this much water throughout the day. Ideally, shoot for at least half your body weight in ounces of water as a rule of thumb. But you, again, go back to module 2 if you want to take a deeper dive on food quality. And then also information. How much time are you spending consuming things, whether that's social media or the news? Pay attention to that diet as well and create values around that as well. How much time am I giving myself to be on social media or to watch TV, whatever that might be. And lastly, Dr. Movement. So what are your values? What are your non-negotiables around how you are moving your body? When are you exercising? What types of exercise are you doing? And again, movement doesn't always mean exercise, even going for a walk, or you can even, instead of working out, there's a concept I learned from Paul Chek too, it's called working in, where you're using movement, but you're doing it slowly, you're doing it with the breath, your heart rate isn't increasing, and you're doing it in a way that you're restoring energy by doing the movement. There's a lot of different things that you can do. You can even take a body weight squat, you can even take a push-up, but the key is it should feel very relaxing. You want to be very slow and controlled with the breath, moving with the breath. And then, so what time are you taking to, and that could also tie into Dr. Quiet, by the way, working in. And so what are your values around the time and the types and the days per week that you are choosing to move and to exercise? You at least want to move every single day. But as far as exercise and working out, at the very least 3 times a week for even a half hour of intense exercise will do wonders relative to nothing. And again, these are non-negotiables. Make it happen. Schedule all of these non-negotiables in first, because again, we're going to get to this next, but this is part of taking care of yourself first, is being selfish first so that you can be selfless. And so schedule all the non-negotiables in first, and then you can work in all of your other things around that. You work in all of your work and all the other activities around your 4 doctors, around your non-negotiables. And so this gets into the concept of I before we always, or I, we, all. Again, another concept that I learned from Paul Chek. But essentially, if you think of 3 circles, like you got an inner circle, you got a circle outside of that, and then you got a circle outside of that, in the center is your I circle. So that's your 100%, because that's you. That's things that you have control over. That's your 4 doctors, taking care of yourself. And then outside of that, you've got your we circle that encompass, or that the I is encompassed within. And so you are 50% of every relationship. So a we is you and one other. So you're 50% of every relationship. So to the extent that you are not caring for yourself, or that your 50% is diminished, there's actually a double deficit, because, let's say you're only operating at 40%, then not only is that 10% that person can't access, that you're in relationship with, or that thing, or that pet, or whatever, but there's also 10% that you're not able to give. So 10% you're not able to give, 10% that isn't able to be received and accessed. So there's a double deficit. That's why it's important to really manage your 50% so that you can be and show up as best as you can to the we, to the other relationships in your life. And this is a big thing, with just entrepreneurs and people that are very, because a lot of times what I find is we get all-centric, which is the next level out, where it's like everybody, we want to change the world, we want to do all these big things, and so we keep focusing on everybody, and then because of that, we are actually taking away from the I and the we. Or sometimes, we focus on the I and then we skip straight to the all without effectively taking care of our individual relationships. That's Kilo in the background there. And so you want to take care of the I. That's kind of, point blank period. So be selfish so you can be selfless. I before we always. And that also kind of reminds you that the best thing that you can do for your relationships and for the world is be the best that you can be. And paradoxically, the better that you become, one, the more you're able to give to others, but also the more you access of yourself, the more you learn to love yourself, the more you learn to see and embrace all parts of yourself, the more you begin to see yourself in the other. The more you begin to see yourself in the other, it acts as a mirror, and then you start to see more and more of yourself. And a good little practice is to, the things that cause pain in your life are the relationships that, there might be things that you might not necessarily like, or people that you might not necessarily like, or judgments that you have about certain people or things, is to use that as a mirror to then look back at yourself and see, where's that judgment coming from? Where am I judging myself? Where am I not allowing myself to be a certain way or express myself in a certain way? Because the things that we don't like in others are almost always a direct reflection of the things that we don't like or aren't willing to look at and embrace within ourselves. So it's a good practice for you. And you can't really change what the other person is doing, but you can change the meaning that you give. You can change the interpretation that you give. Just like if somebody cuts you off in traffic, you can interpret that as this guy's an asshole and you get angry. Or you're like, oh man, this guy really must be in a hurry. Maybe he's having a bad day. Maybe, he's on his way to the hospital and something is bad is happening. And, that anger could then turn into love and compassion. Fundamentally is only like two emotions. You got fear and you got love. Fear upholds the illusion of separation. Love is a binding and a force of union and unity. We'll get more into that stuff, but just as planting a little seed, because it's important as it relates to yourself and your ability to serve the all, is be all that you can be so that you can help the world and help others as much as you possibly can. Because again, what you don't have for yourself, you're not going to be able to give others, no matter how much you're expending. You can only give what you've been able to give yourself. All right? So, homework, which we've already kind of covered. One is establish your dream. That's first and foremost, because that's going to relate to all the other things that you build on top of that. That's the foundation. Now, we're going to get more into this in further modules. We're going to really dive deep into your vision and your purpose and all that good stuff. But for now, I just want you to get a general overlay of what is your dream? What are you here to do? How are you here to serve? What is your, what do you want to create? What are your goals? Just get a big picture vision so that you have a foundation to start to build all these other things on. So then step 2 is to create the 4 doctor values. So create values within each one of those doctors, or non-negotiables for each one of those doctors. Again, Dr. Happy, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Diet, Dr. Movement. And then lastly, pay attention to your 50%. Pay attention to your I and see where you might be having leaks, or you're not managing yourself as effectively as you could be. And then using the 4 doctors and establishing these non-negotiables, make sure you're taking care of yourself first. You're being selfish so that you can be selfless. All right? So that's your assignment for this week. I hope this was valuable for you. And we will dig a little deeper on this in our accountability call coming up. Go over any kind of personal things that come up. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're not part of the Alchemy Tribe, we do, depending on when you're watching this, we have a retreat that we hold every quarter. That would be the next step for you if you want to get more involved with this. The retreats are just immersive experiences where we really just dig deep and just lay the groundwork for all of these modules to come and for all the lessons to come, because this is a year-long program that is meant to continually build on one another, as well as reinforce and integrate the things that we're learning. Because again, you can watch this video and it might sound cool and you might even do the assignments, but if it's not integrated, if it's not a consistent experience until the point where a state becomes a trait, until a habit just becomes just who you are, and it's not even something that you have to think about anymore. Because that's the ultimate place. You just want this to just be who you are. So it's not like you're trying to do these things or to be this way. It's just who you are. And when it's who you are, your world, your external reality is just going to mirror that right back at you. And so we use that power for better or for worse, but it all starts with how we're taking care of ourselves and managing our own bodies and minds and emotions and fulfilling our spiritual needs and our spiritual mission to begin with. All right, y'all. Until next time, peace, love, gratitude. Thank you. I love you all. Talk soon. The journey is the way. Don't forget.